thank you to all of you for coming this evening. On behalf of the Watertown Area Chamber of Commerce and the Watertown branch of the AAUW, I'd like to welcome you all to this evening's City Council Districts 4 and 6 Candidate Forum. Our moderator, for this evening is Jill Nadeau. She's monitoring too, I'm sure. Jill is the executive producer and fill-in host for the Larry Mueller Show, which is heard around the state on Wisconsin Public Radio. She formerly worked as the coordinator for Watertown TV. So, to introduce the candidates and to get the forum rolling tonight, Jill Nadeau. Oh, that's right, we're sharing.
Thank you. Well, thank you. That was very nice of you. And thank you, Diane. And especially thank you to our candidates for being with us tonight. Let me tell you how the forum will be conducted. We expect it to last about an hour. And we're going to start with each candidate introducing themselves and the district that they're running in. They're going to have a minute and a half to do this. And then we're going to start with the questions. Now, the candidates have not been given the questions in advance, but they are aware of the topics that may be covered tonight. We will have 10 questions, and each candidate will have 1 minute to respond. We will then close out the event by giving each candidate a minute and 30 seconds to make closing statements. And we have our timekeepers up here in the front who will be giving the candidates the 15-second, 30-second, what have you. And there will be a bell, right? We have a bell? We have a bell. Excellent, thank you. The candidates will alternate who responds first to the questions in alphabetical order based on the last name. And just as a reminder, these candidates are running in the primary election on February 17th, and the top 2 vote getters will then represent each district on the ballot on April 7th. The AAUW and the Chamber of Commerce will host another forum with all the districts up for election on March 26th, and that'll take place here at the library. Let's start with our first candidate.
Good evening. My name is Jim Brockler. I'm running in the
Hold on, Jim.
Okay.
There you go.
Too many years without a microphone. I can do it. My name is Jim Brockler. I'm running in the 4th District for the City Council. I was reared on a 4-generation farm in Western Pennsylvania, came to college here in town, and decided following that I would make Watertown my home. So I've been very active, very involved. My career path has kind of bounced back and forth between teaching and library. There was a little interlude into the nonprofit world, but I am thankful for the opportunities I've been able to be involved in Watertown. I started out playing Summer League Volleyball, which led to Park and Rec, which led to City Council, which led to County Board, which I've been on. I've been privileged to serve there for many years in the areas of finance and safety and human resources, human services, and the list goes on. I'm very thankful. I've also been tried to be involved in Watertown. I've been in the Historical Society Board for many years. Currently, I am Vice Chairman. I've been in the Watertown Housing Authority, which used to be the CDA, now is the Watertown Housing Authority, and I'm currently the chairman there. I'm also involved in the Watertown Municipal Band, where I am the drum major, and I'm thankful for this opportunity this evening. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Mike Hedrick, running for District 6, Alderperson. First, I want to say thank you for inviting us, inviting me specifically to this event and holding the event. I've lived in and around Watertown most of my life. I decided to join the race for Alderperson after seeing some of the choices that were being made, and I felt that they were not in the best interest of the city of Watertown. In particular, cutting the library budget. I think there are new and alternative methods to meet the needs and goals of the city. As a building inspector, I have worked for over 25 years working with local, state, and federal agencies, and in both the public and private sector. I have also, in that position, worked on budgeting, managing personnel, writing and interpreting different codes, and working with the public. As an alderperson, I would listen to the people in the community. I would talk with developers and business owners. I would be a partner with them and the departments, collaborating together with them to figure out working solutions, not just for right now, but for the long term. I'm asking you to choose a path forward for the betterment of Watertown. Pretty close.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Todd Hune. I'm running for Alder of District 6. I want to again begin by thanking both the Chamber of Commerce and the AAUW for putting this on. I'd also like to thank all the people who are here in the audience supporting this. I love seeing this level of community involvement. I love the fact we have 6 people up here with multiple primaries of all these people who are interested in representing Watertown and seeing Watertown succeed. And I'll tell you, that just makes my heart happy. A little bit about me. I'm a Watertown native. My parents were both school teachers here in the district. I grew up, graduated from Watertown High School, off to university, picked up by the Air Force for a scholarship for med school, and did my residency in family medicine, went in as an Air Force family doc, cross-trained into flight medicine, and rode the rest of my career out as a flight surgeon for the Air Force. Retired in 2022, moved back here because my wife, in the audience, but also an Air Force vet, we've lived all over the world together. We've moved our family countless times, and we felt the best place to raise them was here in Watertown. I'm a member of the Board of Health here in Watertown. I think they're doing some fantastic work at identifying areas for the town. I'm also part of the Redevelopment Authority, where we're looking at ways to bring in businesses, encourage housing, encourage investment here in town. So that's where I'm at, and I would like to pass the mic.
Good evening, my name is Gina Nateki. I will be 48 years young in April. I've lived in Watertown for 25 years, and 15 of those years I've been in District 4. I'm running for alderperson because I feel I can bring a new generation's perspective on things. I decided to run because I feel that as a beautiful community that we have, I feel that we're in a standstill. I feel that we need to move forward. There's a lot of great communities around us, and I just want people to come by our lovely city and experience all the things that we have to offer. I've been a firefighter for 27 years for the City of Madison Fire Department, and I'm looking forward to retiring in 2 years and 2 months, which I'm not counting. I feel with my skills of doing that so long, I know how to be a team player. I've seen a lot of things, and I just want to do my best to make this city a better place for everyone. Thank you.
Hi, Ian Pilak, alderperson District 4 is what I'm running for. Grew up in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, found myself in Phoenix, Arizona metro area, met my wife, returned back up to Michigan so that she could complete her education, and she got herself a job in Wisconsin, so I found myself back here not expecting to be. There's a lot of deep roots up here in this town. We're establishing our roots. We've been here a little over 5 years, and I've been very impressed with the forward momentum that's been looked at in town. I don't want to see that expire. There have been some decisions lately that have seemed like maybe we're going to think a little smaller than some of the grander dreams that we thought we were going to have. So I don't have a whole lot of experience in this. I've just had the unique opportunity of being able to listen to city meetings and listen to what's going on and track what's happening and what's being discussed. So if I have anything to say for myself, is that I'm pretty well read into how things have been progressing, and I feel like I can slide in and be pretty well informed and carry on. Thanks.
My name is Fred Smith. I am running as a candidate for the City Council in District 6. I have had the honor of serving in local government for quite a few years. I served 3 terms as mayor here in the city, and I'm finishing up my 9th term on the City Council. It has been a wonderful experience. Watertown is a tremendous city. It is a city that each and every one of us can be tremendously proud of. And one of the one of the reasons why I am running for what will probably be my last term, not only because it would be term limited in any event, but I think it's a point in my life where I think would be well for me to focus on my wonderful family. We have 4 children, all of whom were raised here in the city, and 8 grandchildren. And I'm really looking forward to the opportunity to spending more time with them. But I will tell you that it has been a great opportunity to serve the city. I consider my presence on the City Council as an honor and an opportunity to bring a conservative influence to the discussions that we've had, and I would continue that in this next term.
Thank you all. Now we'll start with our questions, and again, you have 1 minute to answer these questions as well as you can. Question number 1. The current Common Council reduced funding for the library in this year's budget. Are you in favor of or opposed to this decision, and why? And we will start with Mike.
Well, as I said in my opening statement, obviously, I'm opposed to that idea. I feel like that was, first off, it wasn't, in my opinion, brought up the right way. Like, and budget talk should start earlier if you're going to do this sort of thing and take money out of a specific department to fund other things or whatever. But it just, it was really frustrating to see and disheartening to me. And I think the library deserves better. Thank you. And they just, sorry, I'm not accustomed to public speaking, so bear with me for a little bit while I collect my thoughts. I just think that there are other alternatives and ways to communicate what needed to happen, and to be upfront about it and say, look, we need to take a little out of the budget, and we need to find other ways.
Oh, all right. It looks like we start immediately upon getting the mic.
Can I start when you start talking?
Oh, okay. Well, thank you.
So if you
All
take
right.
a breath.
No problem.
Okay.
So I think this comes back to the bigger question in my mind, comes back to communication and transparency. Because it took quite a bit of research. When I first found out about the library being cut, I was steamed. I was upset. I love this library. I grew up with this library. And it took a lot of digging for me to find out what was going on behind the scenes. And when I learned that part of the reason that the budget was being adjusted was because they had chronically unfilled position that had not been filled, they had not been using this budgeted money for many years. Well, typically when you have a budget, it gets adjusted annually to match what your operating expenses are, and that hadn't been done. So as opposed to saying, hey, we're adjusting it to match your actual expenses, it came through as a cut. Obviously, I'm opposed to cutting a library, but I am not opposed to taking a hard look at our city budgeted items, make sure that they actually match what the actual operating expenses for the areas being budgeted are.
I was actually really sad to hear about the cutting of the library. I've been living here 25 years, like I said, and I just recently started coming to the library. I just feel as a person living here, we should have, let me see how I say this. Sorry, give me a second. I love the library. I think there are people that don't have computers, don't have other things in their homes that they can enjoy. And I feel that when people come to the library, they can get away. They can have some, you time. And I think it just hurt my heart to know that this was going to get cut. I felt that something else should have taken the place of that. This shouldn't even have been on the chopping block. So I was just upset about that being an issue.
this library was very important to us. My daughter, currently 8 years old, if we hadn't had this resource, I don't know what I would have done with her when the weather was bad. Very active kid, very social kid. I was frustrated how the extra cut to the budget came about. I was also frustrated that when they went to the board and asked for the money to be presented to the city, when it was advised that it felt like it was an ultimatum that the cut would come somewhere else if they didn't agree to it, there was a denial in the room by the two alders there. Lo and behold, the following meeting at the city council, the ultimatum came through. The entire room heard it. It was unacceptable the way the whole thing went down. If I am elected, one of my priorities is going to be get the money back that was cut from this library's budget. It's an important nucleus for this city.
I do support the outcome of what was a very difficult decision in a very difficult budget. We have in our general budget almost $22 million. We have numerous departments. It was a very difficult budget year. There were accumulated fund balances that were available in a number of our city entities. The city as a whole put $1.1 million into the general budget so that we would be able to maintain a reasonable tax rate approach. The library had a substantial fund balance as well. It was reasonable that we had a contribution from all of our departments to try to address the extremely difficult funding situation that we have driven by debt, which we'll discuss in a future question.
I started reading when I was 5 and been doing it every day since. I went as a teacher and now I'm a librarian, so a library is extremely important to me. But I also spent about 5 or 6 years on the county's finance committee where we dealt with $90 million budgets, and decisions are never easy, and the smaller the unit, the harder the decision is when it comes to making these types of things. So it's a matter of scrutinizing and continuing to look at things. This is a crown jewel in Watertown, and we need to be sure that we keep it. And I remember the long, drawn-out, ongoing, I will use the word battle to get this new addition, but this library is crucial, and it must remain so.
You have your step counter on, Diane? Thank you. Let's go on to question number 2. The cost of goods and services has risen, as had the value of our homes, and this has caused an increase in our property taxes. What ideas do you have to bring in more revenue to prevent further increases? Again, the cost of goods and services has risen, as have the value of our homes, and this has caused an increase in our property taxes. What ideas do you have to bring in more revenue to prevent further increases? Todd.
So, as any of you who read the Watertown Daily Times article, one of the things that I led with was saying, I'm a firm believer that revenue follows rooftops. And what that means is, what we need to do, in my opinion, is to increase our tax base, not our taxes. We make it so that housing is more readily available, supply and demand. If we restrict the number of houses being built through overly regulatory agencies, licensing, other permitting, we make it harder to build. The harder it is to build, the less supply we have, the higher costs go, and it makes it less appealing for investors. If we can make this an appealing investment market to bring in housing, we increase the number of people, we put more demand and we put more increase in our retail services, we increase the tax base without increasing the taxation. And I think that, for me, is the way forward for Watertown.
I think of it in a simple way. building more homes equals more taxpayers equals like affordability, more affordable for people. I know that there's at least 5 developments that are going to be starting and coming shortly after. And just hearing about that, I'm excited about that because that means more families. That means more people visiting. Like I said, the more people, the more buildings, the more like apartments and homes, that is more spending on our lovely downtown shops. And that's basically how I look at it. Thank you.
I largely agree with the revenue following rooftops. I think we got to stay open to different proposals and work collaboratively, but not too much in the favor of developers that have different presentations. I don't want to write anything off. If a apartment building in a largely single-family home neighborhood makes sense due to scale, then it should be something to be looked at. There was a opportunity up in the Albert Street area, and it was scuttled because there was a preference for single-family homes. I'm not sure that I agree with that, but also it's not my neighborhood. So, but I think I would have supported it if the plan was right. Alternately, we also have to invest in ourselves. If we make things in this city appealing to attract businesses and future residents, then we shouldn't be too worried about borrowing. We have a good reputation.
We should be supportive of growth across the board, and we need to be balanced in the approach in which we seek to promote that growth. We cannot become exclusively a residential community, or we will have decided problems, as residential development is far more service intensive than other types of development. Right now, almost 78% of our total tax valuation is residential, and it does come with a cost. Now, it's tremendously important for us to have the kind of housing that will attract businesses of all types. Watertown needs to be a thriving and growing community. We need to reduce regulation. We need to have a reasonable tax rate for businesses which look at that, and we need to have an available workforce. So all of that combined is what is going to ultimately answer, and certainly the approach of borrowing is not the answer.
I think it's a two-pronged situation. We definitely need more housing, and we need a variety of housing. We need housing for those that are just coming into the homeowners area, and those that then suddenly have children, and then your empty nesters and those that are retiring, so there needs to be a variety of housing. But I also think we need to work on building our industry and technology around the town. We've got a wonderful industrial park, and that would add to the tax base. He was mentioned about the fact that services, they do cost us more. That is correct. But if we can balance new building for homes with the addition of new factories and workplaces, that gives somebody somewhere to both work and live. And another little thing, I think, if we make the town attractive, then we're going to bring in tourists. We're wonderfully located on the Rock River, right off of 94, and a great corridor here in town. We could really take advantage of that.
I believe that housing should be a priority. The city has some great new projects starting, and more needs to happen. Everything from starter homes to high-end homes and condos. The larger tax base we have, which has been talked about, the healthier the city will be. We need to work with developers and be open to new and alternative ideas. It concerns me when I hear things like certainly not borrowing as an alternative. We're already cutting off possible options of how to create new housing. We shouldn't be doing that. If we have concerns, we need to express them early and clearly so the developers understand and can react appropriately. if we lead them on and, keep making changes, that could spoil the developments, and we get a reputation for not being open to development. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Question number 4. Number 3. The Watertown Unified School District is facing a financial crisis and has placed a referendum on the April ballot. How will the current financial situation of our schools impact the growth of our community? Again, the Watertown Unified School District is facing a financial crisis and has placed a referendum on the April ballot. How will the current financial situation of our schools impact the growth of our community? Gina.
I'm going to be really honest. I don't have children, and this isn't something that I have been following. Either way, schools are important in any community. I just hope that we get the funding we need to better our children, now and in the future. So again, I'm really sorry. I can't really answer that because I don't have children. So I'm sorry.
I support the referendum. It is important. Obviously, any homeowner knows that one of the main things that adds to your property value is whether you're in a good school district and what the rating is. That being said, I'm not sure about what's going on over there. I have a lot of opinions, and it's going to take up more than a minute for me to get them all out. So, but I would just say, please, if you can find a way, support the referendum. We need it. It's going to impact the town. If we don't have a good school district, it's going to be bad.
Well, I certainly support education at every level, and I support education in a pluralistic way, which is to say, we have a vested interest in having options which give the greatest opportunities to our upcoming next generation. Public schools, private schools, parochial schools, all of them contribute to our well-being as a community, and I support them all. I also support the most cooperative approach possible between various jurisdictions, which is to say the City of Watertown should be looking for ways to partner with the school district. There are a number of ways that we can cooperate and already do, and the more that we do that, the better we're going to be able to benefit the taxpayers.
I've been often asked, what's the industry in Watertown? And usually I answer education, because of the fact that the multiple elementary schools, both private and parochial and public, as well as middle schools, high schools, colleges, technical schools, it's an important part of this community. But I also realize that sometimes you have to make very, very difficult cuts in order to be the best and wisest use of the money that you have. We don't have an option to print more money. If we continually tax and tax and tax, and even if we have a good school, it still becomes a burden. I have known people that have moved here because of the schools. I have also known people that have moved here, away from here, because of the schools. So I think it's going to take some very, very difficult and arduous ideas to figure out we might have to do this a different way than we've always done before.
I would agree that changes need to be made in how we approach school funding, and the impact on the city, I think, is substantial. I mean, if you don't have quality schools, you're not going to get young families in, and you're not going to grow your city. To me, it's a very important and vital aspect of the city as a whole, and we need to support the schools, and the schools, we also need to be in collaboration with them about the best use of the schools that are already existing. And if there's always hard choices. And we have to decide what is in the best interest of the city long term.
So echoing what many of the other people here have said, they want to move to a community that has a strong school. And we want to attract young families so we can have them in here in the community for a long time. So based on that, I'm certainly not opposed to helping the schools get the funding that they need to be successful. Where I draw the line, though, is in a blank check without any oversight. The fact is, taxpayers deserve to know that they're getting the most and the best value for their investment. Otherwise, we wind up with things in the headlines like you've recently seen. Madison, $386,000 spent on their school district on sending people to the Dells. Milwaukee just burned through almost $1 billion in the last several years. We just found after the failed audit, or the failed referendum, $1.2 million in savings through renegotiating contracts. So my concern is that it took a failed referendum for us to find that savings. Why couldn't that be found earlier?
Okay, question number 4. How do you plan to involve residents in the decision-making process in our community? Again, how do you plan to involve residents in the decision-making process in our community? Ian.
I have a Facebook page that I try to share out the city meetings and documents so that people can see them more easily. It's publicly available. I wish that all the alders would do that and promote the city in the meetings and keep people aware. Communication is difficult these days. Not everybody's on the same social media, not everybody is paying attention. People are busy, they don't have time. I have a unique situation where I can listen to these meetings remotely, and most people can't do that because they're living their lives, they're trying to take care of families. Outreach the best I can. I talk to people as much as I can when I'm taking walks or hanging out at the park with my kid. But it's just being open to being approached and talking to people and listening to their concerns regardless of where you run into them. If it's not just my district, because we are making decisions for the entire city. So talk to people at other parts of town. See, increase your knowledge by listening to what people have to say.
One of the parts of serving as an older person that is the most attractive to me is the interrelationship that we have with the residents that we represent. And I have, each time I have run for an office in the city, and there have been many, I have gone door to door. I have gone through my entire district twice in the 2 previous elections, and I am in the process right now of encouraging people as often as possible to simply contact me and express their views. Interestingly, when I served as mayor, I felt that type of input was so important that I took 1/3 of the city each year and I took surveys around door to door throughout the entire city, got hundreds of responses back, and that actually became the basis of what became the City Connection, and we're trying to use that for purposes of encouraging feedback currently.
Communication is a key, but the difficulty is that we all learn and receive information differently today. Not everybody reads the newspaper, not everybody listens to the radio, multiple ways through social media. And I think one of the ways that I would like to enhance that would making sure that I was always out and about on public events, the parade, the events that we have here across the street, Riverfest, just being seen and about. People are hesitant to open the doors anymore. The world's changed since COVID. And so you need to find places where they'll feel comfortable, where they're willing to have a receptive ear. And one of the things I know on the county board, sometimes they don't really want to know what you think or hear. They just want to be heard. And I think that's a lot of the communication.
I think the city has some good pieces for communicating ideas to the public at this time, but they need to be enhanced. We should continue to provide a presence on social media. It's the way things are going these days. And there needs to be more clear content from the city. In my opinion, there should be a quick recap of the city meetings. If you look at the minutes or see the file of the entire meeting, like you can sit through an hour and a half, and you really just want to see 5 minutes. I mean, come on, who wants to watch an hour and a half of that? Please vote for me. No.
I do.
But I think we just need to do a little quick recap, say this is the stuff that's happened, and this is how it affects you.
You're going to be hearing a common theme from me all night long, and that comes back to communication and transparency. That was how I lived my life for the last several decades as in the headquarters job that I worked for in the Air Force. And one of the things that we worked with in the medical side for medical health and safety was something called rounding for influence. What that meant is getting out of your headquarters office and going to where the people are getting the jobs done, where the boots are hitting the pavement. Going out there, talking to the people in their offices, in their workspaces, getting yourself seen, asking questions. And I think that's something we can apply here too. Getting out to those public events, making yourself available. I think social media is a great aspect. I'd love to see a Week of Watertown podcast coming out regularly. I think that would be a great, easily digestible nugget of information that people would like to have. So that's one of the things that I'd like to do in addition to just rounding for influence and making myself available for people for questions.
I consider myself a pretty social person, whether that is going to the YMCA. I play different sports, and I shoot darts, I bowl. I'm a pretty social person. I love my district, District 4, because I walk my dog a lot. I'm out. I love actually meeting new people. So if people are outside, I have a tendency of saying hello and chatting and getting to know them and vice versa. Like I said, just getting out there, I think, is a really big deal. I love all the events we have. Like I said, Riverfest is another one. I'm willing to, I'm actually excited and looking forward to just being out there and being approachable for people to just voice their opinion and having me do my best to take care of their concerns and their comments. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Question number 5. There is a proposal to redo the one-way streets in downtown Watertown. What are your thoughts on that change? Again, there is a proposal to redo the one-way streets in downtown Watertown. What are your thoughts on that change? It's Fred.
Well, it's not a complete restructuring of the traffic patterns in the downtown area. What we're talking about doing is in concert with the rebuilding of the Main Street to turn 3rd and 4th Street into two-way streets. Right now, that's one-way south or one-way north. I think that it's going to be an enhancement to the city as a whole. The approach that I've taken is, number one, listen overwhelmingly to those who have firsthand experience in regard to the downtown area and have sought input from the downtown community. But I think that the other factor that I think is extremely important is there are variations of how we would be proceeding with that changeover. And I think it's especially important that we protect the parking in the downtown area and not remove parking just to add lanes.
Growing up rural, most of the streets were one way, though everybody drove both ways on them. So when I first moved to Watertown, there were far more one-way streets than there are now. And when it first made the change, there was a lot of grumbling and complaining, and it was just change. But most people don't even realize some of those streets used to be one-way. So I am in favor of returning those 2 streets to two-way. It helps out-of-towners. We've all seen somebody go the wrong way on a one-way street. I would also agree that we do have to protect the parking. There needs to be a lot of information flooded out to all of the city to let them know that these are now two-way streets, clearly marked, a lot of signage, especially for visitors. So I would be in favor of removing the one-ways.
I would agree that there needs to be a lot of city involvement if you're going to make these changes. I would be in favor of that, but we need to plan it out and need to be on top of informing the public. I think a lot of signs, and we don't want to lose parking, so we have to make sure we maintain parking. Because the Main Street project is going to be tough enough on the downtown. We don't need to add to that by reducing parking. So we should do what we can to consider the options, and I'm going to cut it short this time. Thanks.
So I'm sure all of you have heard the phrase, failure is not an option. And that was something we talked about in Mission Control when I was sitting at the surgeon's desk down at Johnson Space Center. And the reason I bring that up is failure is not an option really refers to the idea that you're planning ahead and saying, what could go wrong? How will we avoid it or ameliorate it? And when we look at the Main Street, we know that we're going to be redoing Main Street. We're going to be tearing it up. We know that's going to impact businesses. I know how hard the bridge being closed was. So by removing the one-way streets, we increase access. We make it easier for people, especially people who aren't local. We want to bring in tourists. We don't want tourists to get lost. We want them to come and stay because they like it, not because they can't figure out how to leave. So if we can remove the one-ways, we can make it easier for these businesses as we get through the Main Street remodel, which I think will definitely help. It'll protect their ease of access, protect the businesses. And if you want to learn more, the Department of Engineering recently put out an excellent presentation on that.
I'm definitely in favor of the two-way. I don't know about you guys, but I've noticed that on these one-ways, people have a tendency to speed more. And to me, that is kind of alarming. I remember actually walking across the street and I almost got clipped. So it's kind of, I'm taking that one a little, personally, and I'm really, like I said, definitely in favor of that. A couple of these gentlemen mentioned we, have to worry about our parking. Well, we have quite a few designated areas to park in the city. I think with that, we're going to need to just maybe use signs so people know how to access those. But I'm a little worried about the transition from the one-way to the two-way. Again, out-of-towners, they're not going to be familiar with it, but again, social media, word of mouth, and a lot of signs, I think, is going to be a good transition for that.
I'm generally in favor of it. I don't have a strong feeling one way or the other. We moved to town, they were one ways, so we drove where we could drive, and if you change it to two ways, I'm going to adapt. I think the people that are going to be impacted are the ones that we got to make sure they know it's coming. What their input is going to be important, especially with the downtown businesses. We can't take spaces away from them because we know how valuable parking is to certain segments of our community. They have a strong feeling about whether they can walk more than a block to get to where they're going. But overall, I think the change back, if it makes sense, do it. And it seems so far, everything that I've heard in relation to this, it seems to make the most sense.
Okay, speaking of roads, what ideas do you have for addressing and expediting road repairs? Again, what ideas do you have for addressing and expediting road repairs? Jim.
Roads are crucial to this town. I grew up rural. I learned how to swerve around potholes the whole way to and from school. I think what we need to do is come up with a comprehensive plan using a lot of the state methods. I know we in the county level have determined roads are different levels, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Put it on the plan, make it a part of the budget, and protect it, so that we're always sure that we have good roads in this town. They have varied over the years, and I know everyone gets territorial. Well, my road's the worst one in town. You know that because you're on it all the time, but there may be another road that may be worse and you just don't realize that. But I think coding out the roads, color on a map in town, so we know this is up next. Next year, your road will be repaired, and so we have a pattern and a plan along the way instead of doing it, oh, now it's time, we better do this road. We need to have a plan.
I think the street department does a lot of work to maintain things as best they can. I think the roads are a serious concern for most of the citizens, and the issues have been going on for a long time. We've delayed needed maintenance in the past, and now, it has come time to really address these things. We need to make sure that we're not making the same mistakes over and over again by doing Band-Aid patches and that sort of thing. You have to address it. I like the idea of the engineering department usually does have a plan showing the condition of the roads, but that information should be getting out, multiple ways to the citizens so that they understand, like, okay, these are the streets, we're not changing it, this is what needs to get done now, this is what's getting done next year, and we're going to need to keep working on that. Thank you.
I'm going to go back to that common theme that we've talked about. So communication transparency. Our engineering department and our street department work very closely hand in hand, and unfortunately they often identify some problematic areas, some antiquated waters and sewer and other things like that that are buried under the street that make it much more difficult to conduct these repairs. But they also know that every road has a life cycle. It's going to last for X number of years before you're likely to need to repair it. They know this, they've got this planned out. Unfortunately, that plan is not easily available to the general public. And so we have to sit there and say, well, gosh, this street looks terrible. Why isn't anyone doing anything about it? Not knowing that it's actually next on the agenda. So one of the things I would really want to do is to make sure they're putting this plan out, but also getting the feedback from people. And if you're saying, hey, this street may not be up for 5 years, but gosh, it really needs to be done now, they have that freedom and flexibility to be able to move some things around, knowing of life cycle, but being able to adjust.
I believe the engineering and the streets departments are the eyes and ears for this subject. I think having a game plan, like a few of them mentioned, like what are the bad streets? What are ones that can last maybe a couple more years and this and that? But I don't know. I believe the streets department, they do a great job. I mean, they don't want to have to sit and come by and keep filling holes over and over again. I think they're just trying to do the best they can. I just feel that the communication between engineering and older people, have people come to your alder and talk about the street that they have that they think is an issue, and then go forward with that. So I think communication is a huge factor in that case.
I enjoy listening to the public works meetings, probably some of the most, because there's some really smart people that present their ideas. And the 5-year capital plan exists. They do have priorities. They do manage things differently if things come up and interrupt it. They're always looking for ways to get more money, to do more. Some of those grant opportunities come with restrictions, or they come with conditions that have to be met, and not all our roads meet them. So the ones that do, they try to get those done, and they might jump the line, and it might feel unfair if your road is in particularly bad condition, but it all comes down to money, and they are working with what they got, and they're doing the best that they can. I really recommend listening to those meetings because they're very enlightening.
One of the easiest areas in an entire budget to seek to get away with diminishing the funding for them are capital projects. And in the area of our streets, we have to have a commitment. We have to be faithful to that commitment. We have a little bit less than 130 miles of city streets. The average asphalt street will last 25 years, some are cement. But the point is, either we do 5 miles of city street work per year, or we're going to be falling behind. We need to make that commitment. This year in the budget, we added an additional $500,000 to that budget. We also need to move more intelligently, and instead of trying to reconstruct so many streets, we can get 3 times as much bang for the buck by resurfacing the streets. We're going to get better streets. It's going to be less cost.
Okay, thank you. Number 7, a number of communities are building data centers. How would you like to see the council respond if one of these was proposed in Watertown? Again, a number of communities are building data centers. How would you like to see the council respond if one of these was proposed for Watertown?
I would like to keep an open mind, and I think the council in general should. We should evaluate the proposal as it comes in, and understand what the concerns are, whether it be ecological problems or noise, traffic, that sort of thing, whatever it may be. We need to look at the whole scope of things before I think it's really the wrong way to go to just dismiss anything out of hand without even considering it. You need to at least consider it and see what the options are, and let's see some studies as to what these data centers would, what would the positives be and what would the negatives be.
So I sit on the redevelopment authority, where we're always trying to attract businesses, we're trying to bring in housing developers. So we're always looking to bring in people who are willing to build here in town, especially in areas of land that maybe aren't the most desirable for housing or businesses. Data center is an option for those kinds of parcels of land that otherwise are, I'm going to use the word blighted. They're just simply not very developable. But just like any other capital project, we've got to consider the impacts on the town, on the traffic, on the people. We've got to look at the environmental impacts. Data centers draw a great deal of power. So we also have to look at, do we have the power infrastructure to be able to work with something like that? They produce a lot of heat. Now, some places are finding ways to capture that heat and actually use it for heating in the winter, which is wonderful. But in the summer, how might that affect what they're using as a heat sink? Many use rivers or lakes. How will that affect our rivers and lakes? Those are all considerations that we would have to take into account.
I think like anything that's new and unknown, I would say you want to do the research. You want to look into the positives and negatives, and I think rushing is something that definitely should not be done. Taking the time, doing studies, like I said, environment to me is very important. I just want to make sure that it's not affecting our area, and so basically, like I said, I don't have a lot of background and knowledge on it, but I think it's common sense. we need to take the time, get the studies, involve people, and see what other people think about it.
Whenever there's a very concentrated push to start doing these kind of projects all over the place very quickly, it always kind of raises my BS detector to a certain extent. I'm not even sure that we have the capacity to absorb one of those places, so unless they're coming with a roof full of solar panels, it may not even be viable here. But I would stay open to the presentation, but I certainly, what I've been reading about it so far does not look very promising. It looks like kind of potential for a lot of boondoggles going down, a couple of years from now. So that's just my general impression right now.
Generally, when we have the opportunity to have jobs come to our community, or to have opportunities where businesses will expand within the community and produce more jobs, I'm generally favorable to the concept. What I am not favorable for is the approach that a number of communities make, which is to induce the development or induce the company to come at a extraordinarily high cost to the taxpayers. In other words, bribing the company to come with a cost that will never be recouped. And then the last thing is, I think we need to be very careful about the type of development that would be potentially likely to undermine our quality of life in Watertown. And there are a number of industries where that would be the case.
I think the best thing to do for data centers is to plan that they are coming and set up all your rules, your statutes, your ordinances, and all of the situation so when they come, you're not caught off guard. Right now, there are about 30 of these data centers in Wisconsin, and so many of them are just winging it because they don't have that. And to take advantage of the cities where they are doing these, find out what works, what doesn't work, have it all in place so when the time comes to make the decision, we are prepared for them. We're not just going by the seat of our pants. I will also note, I've been at a conference the last 2 days, and this was a topic. And so I was asking around, and for those that might want to know, Jefferson County is not high on the list because we don't have the right settings for these type of things.
Interesting.
Okay, we're up to question number 8. What area of city operations presents the greatest personal challenge to you, and what would be your strategy to overcome that challenge? Again, what area in city operations presents the greatest personal challenge to you, and what would be your strategy to overcome that challenge?
I'll be honest, that's a hard question, because what you're asking us to do is to say you have to know what you don't know. I'll be honest with you. I've got a lot of experience in leadership. I've got a lot of experience in troubleshooting and fixing programs. I literally wrote the textbook for the executive medical development for the Air Force. But I don't have a lot of experience in municipal government. I have experience in international, national level, regional, but not in the municipal. Where my strengths are going to come, it comes from emergency management, so I'm very comfortable with the police and the fire. Public health, I'm very comfortable with that. I'm not a businessman, so I've been trying to learn as much as I can about the business and the planning, all of those logistics aspects. And I would say that that would probably be my biggest challenge. I've been studying up on that. I've been trying to learn with that. I've been involved with the RDA. But since I'm not a business person, that would probably be where it comes.
Exactly what he said. I'm not going to pretend that I know anything about that. I do have a lot to learn in general. I know that. This is my first time, putting my name in the hat, so to speak. I'm eager to learn all that. Like I said, I'm also more familiar with, emergency management, police, fire. That's my forte. So that's basically all I have to say about that. I apologize.
What was the question again?
What area, I don't have the microphone. Sorry. That's okay. Sorry about that. What area in city operations presents the greatest personal challenge to you, and what would be your strategy to overcome that challenge?
I guess, I don't know if this applies, but IT, if we're talking about a personal challenge as a citizen, navigating the website, finding information, looking at stuff, it's not user-friendly. We should have ways that are more cooperative for people to get things done, like adding portals to the website that can allow them to report when they have a bad sidewalk or something's going on, so that the city departments can know about it and they can prioritize things. I'm not even sure if I'm just rattling off something that I want as a citizen, if this even applies, but there was a debate about having another IT person on staff during the budgeting cycle, and that got shot down, and it's 2026. We need to up our game as far as the modern age and doing things online.
I think the hardest thing is to try to be proactive and fair to each of the important areas of city services that are in desperate need of more money. We have a very, very difficult budget. Money is never sufficient for the needs that we have. And to wrestle with the priorities when we know that a huge number of areas need additional funding, additional personnel. All I can say is that my default is that our number one purpose in the city is to protect our citizens. I support the police department and the fire department. I believe that in every area where funding choices have to be made, they need to be the number one priority, and we need to recognize the importance of that and the commitment necessary to keep them in operation.
This is the most difficult question so far. So I'm going to preface it, say whatever ideas come out, they're not promises. They're just ideas. So I was thinking about it and the fact that we could make better use of our green spaces in this town. We've got Riverside Park, we've got the new park across the way, we've got our community parks, we've got Brand Cork. If we could take a better advantage of those parks, entice other groups to come here for tournaments and reunions and those type of things where it's a double benefit. Our land is being put to good use. It's outdoor, it's healthy. At the same time, they're bringing but they're bringing revenue into the town. I think that's where I would say the challenge is for me.
For me, I have a fair amount of experience of working with the different departments in the city. So I understand being able to work with them and collaborate with them and understand their needs. But part of it is also, trusting your department heads and working with them and listening to their concerns and how do we work together to come up with a solution that works for everybody. I don't know all these departments, the fine details. That's not my job. My job is to take the information that they give me and do the best I can to make it work for each department, but also the citizens of Watertown.
Okay, we're getting to the bottom, folks. Number 9, how would you evaluate whether a public infrastructure project was worth implementing? Again, how would you evaluate whether a public infrastructure project was worth implementing?
Another hard question for me. I don't know, is it common sense to say studies, do some research, and if there's, for someone like me, reach out to somebody that has an idea or has been through this before. Phoning a friend is what I like to say, but not jump into something. Do the research. I don't know, I'm not sure if they have agencies that we can hire that can, do research and gather things, and then, when it's said and done, just come together and see if it's a great move or not.
I try to be smart enough to know what I don't know. So there's a lot of smart people, like I said before, working for our city. That's a great resource. They present things very clearly and very matter-of-factly. I'm also well practiced in asking that question that feels really stupid in my gut and not being so prideful as to, be looked at like, what? So I'm going to listen to people that are smarter than I am to help me make those decisions and ask questions to clarify as much as I need to, even to the point of exhaustion.
The area of infrastructure, when you mention that, you're talking about capital investment, and that is the area where our city is facing the greatest and most pressing need. We do have a 5-year capital improvement plan. It is totally underfunded. We have no capacity to address all of the capital needs that we have in the city. Right now, our capital budget is about $5.2 million. Almost 100% of that is borrowed money. So whenever you're talking about a capital project, you're talking about borrowing. Whenever you talk about borrowing, you're talking about a slippery slope that can get you in a tremendous amount of problems if you're not careful with what you're doing. So the bottom line is you need to be extremely cautious about what you're doing. You need to be proactive and plan far ahead and try to set priorities that will work in very limited circumstances.
We've got great staff and department heads in Watertown, but we're not the end all of all. And I know one of the, things I struggled with on the county board is we do these audits, which sounds like they're looking at your finances, but it's actually you pay someone with the experience and the knowledge to take and look at your project throughout the costs, the pluses, the minuses. So in this infrastructure type question, I would say we would have to go outside the city limits so that we could get somebody with the knowledge, somebody who's done it in another city, done it in another county, being careful that we do choose companies that have similar things. We don't want to be looking at a city in California or New York City, but when we look at towns, we'd find like in Indiana or Iowa, so that we can compare apples with apples, but definitely have to go outside and get some definite important information.
Yeah. Evaluating infrastructure projects, I would agree that we would need to evaluate. There should be a study on the projects, and we just have to determine what is the most beneficial to the city of Watertown. This is a little bit of an offshoot, but it reminded me of the article I just read yesterday in the paper about doing the alleyways around the Main Street project. And the response that I saw from the council was disturbing to me. Basically, what they said is this isn't part of the project, and we can't do anything about it. And it's just that is not coming up with solutions. That is not collaboration. We need to change the thinking. You can't continue with we can't do this, that sort of thing. It's got to be how can we help.
Very often, when we're looking at spending taxpayers' money, what we find are solutions in search of problems. So one of the things that you need to look at when you're evaluating these infrastructure tasks is both the pluses and the minuses. You have to do a cost-benefit analysis. Everything is going to have a cost, both financially and otherwise. But it's going to have benefits, both financially and otherwise. And you have to weigh those. Now, one of the questions that comes up is how do we choose these projects? And like many of the other people here have said, you go to the smartest people in the room, the people that do this for a living. And one of the resources we have that lays out a very specific blueprint for Watertown, honestly, is the community health assessment. And I know you think, wait, health, isn't that vaccinations and food? And it is. But it also talks about housing, it talks about mental health, it talks about activities for teenagers. Many of the projects that we would be looking at are covered in the CHA. And I think that gives us a good blueprint to look at what does the community need.
Okay, one last question, and it's an easy one. Where are
Don't
your
believe you.
Where are your favorite places to spend time in our community? Again, where are your favorite places to spend time in our community?
We've been real pleased with the town square, and the programming there has been great. It's been a great place to hang out with our kids and still be able to socialize with adults, and it just it's a great asset to the community. Beyond that, our park system is wonderful. My daughter has utilized every playground in town. And we made a lot of friends that way because there's nothing for me to do but sit there and chit chat with people. So some of the people in this room are people that I met on the playgrounds, and I appreciate that as an asset.
Well, you could spend your time almost anywhere in our city and be tremendously blessed. I am a big fan of the park system that we have in our community. I was very fortunate to be able to be part of the expansion of the what was Quarry Park and now is Brant Quirk Park. It is just a tremendous asset in our city. Riverside Park, all of the areas that are so attractive for outdoor use in our broader community. One of the things our family likes to do as much as anything is just to go out to the interurban trail and just walk and ride bikes and just so many opportunities. And when in doubt, just walk downtown and stroll through the stores and enjoy the tremendous retail opportunities we have in our city.
Thank you for ending on an easy one. I love walking. I walk all over the city. I mean, sometimes I've done 2, 3, 4 miles when I could, stopping at Mullins, get some ice cream. In the Mexican restaurant, getting a different variety of ice cream there. Looking at the river and the parks we have around here. But I'm going to put a personal plug in, but also walking would take me all the way up to the Octagon House and the first kindergarten. And to walk along the way, and I enjoy looking at all of the different architectural styles, the colors, the choices, noticing that this was built in the 50s, maybe this was built in the 60s. This might be one of the first homes in Watertown. So for me, it's walking and just taking my time and enjoying this wonderful town.
The town square is a great asset to the city, along with all of its parks. I love Riverside Park. I live right across the river from it, so I get to have the advantage of looking at it on a daily basis, and it's a beautiful park. And there are so many great parks in our city. I, too, enjoy the Octagon House, and the socials they have in the summer are really fun. Riverfest, of course. The downtown area is a treasure, and we need to keep working on that. All the restaurants throughout the city. I love the different options that we have, and we need to keep working on that, in my opinion. So.
Boy, narrowing that down is a little bit tricky. So I'm going to cheat and say Main Street. Because that lets me cover so many different areas. I get to talk about the library. I mentioned before, I grew up coming here. When I learned to ride my bike, I could ride my bike to the library, and boy, that was a treat. We've got down the street, of course, Blue Butterfly, where my wife works, has to be mentioned. I love dropping in on Literatus. I love how they've remodeled and restored that building. Speaking of remodeling and restoring buildings, Lions Pub has done an amazing job. Bought the building for $1, put in a countless amount, but really restored and made that beautiful. If you happen to swing on a Thursday night when they're hosting Irish session music, you might even catch me playing a mandolin very badly. So for me, Main Street, when we host the German exchange students that work with the high school, we've done that for a number of years, I always make sure we bring them to Main Street and turn them loose so they kind of see a typical small town American Main Street.
There are a lot of things I love about Watertown. I'm getting excited for the farmers market coming up soon. That's a time where I take my dog. We go out there and just walk around and just look at all the goodies that are coming into season and things like that. I can't say the name. Literatus. Thank you. As of lately, I've been spending a lot of time there. Getting to know the owner. He's a really intelligent, amazing man. He's put a lot of work into the building, and if you haven't been there, you have to stop by. A lot of kids running around, reading books, and there's games, so there's a lot there. I also love the downtown. I love to spend money, who doesn't? And then I have friends that own a couple of businesses, so I love it when it's nice out, just go up and down Main Street and stop for an ice cream, things like that. So, and lastly, the YMCA. It's amazing, and they've done so much work. So if you haven't been there, go check that out as well.
Nice.
Okay, we're ending
Shine
finally,
with
and I'm
one
sorry for
question.
keeping you longer. It's Diane's fault because she was just walking too slow, right? Okay, so let's just give each candidate a minute and a half to wind up, tell you why you should vote for them. Fred. What's that? No, it's Fred.
At the point in life where I am right now, looking back, there are some major points where the entire course of our family life changed. And I remember after 11 years in the Marine Corps and having had 4 children, all wonderful, healthy, and full of life, we made the decision to come to Watertown. And it was a decision that was the most rewarding, most wonderful. And 40 years have passed in the blink of an eye. We love the community. It is a great family-based community. It has everything you could ever want to offer. We still live in the same house we did 40 years ago, and it has been a blessing from start to finish. I am also thankful for the opportunity I've had to be in city government. I love working together for the betterment of the community that I love. It is a council that has tremendous diversity, different perspectives, and tremendous ability to make contribution to our city. I guess I'm the fiscal conservative to the max on the committee. I love being the taxpayer's friend, and I love working in behalf of the things that I think are in that regard and our city's best interest.
First, let me thank you all for coming out tonight. I want to thank the Chamber as well as the AAUW, Diane and Jill, and Watertown Cable for making this all possible tonight. I am thankful to be in Watertown. I have done my best to make it part of my life, so I leave you with 3 important points that would philosophize my whole council view. 1, be sure that I'm using my best for common sense. You've heard it said that common sense isn't so common anymore, and I think my dad drilled that into my head, so that's always there. 2nd, I would like to say that I need to be really careful in spending. Sometimes you have to say yes, but sometimes you have to say no. And the last would be also controlled growth. I want to do my best to maintain the wonderful historical value of this town, but also look to the future and make sure we are not left behind.
I've lived in the Watertown community for most of my life. I grew up here. I graduated from Watertown High School, and I just see areas that need improvement. And we could be so much more than what we are right now. We should be a regional hub for growth and activity. We're the biggest city in the general area, Dodge, Jefferson counties. We could be that community. We need to make choices that make sense, not just for today, but for long-term growth. We need to move from we can't do that mentality to how do we make this happen? How can we help make this a reality? If you're ready for a change and want to move Watertown forward, please vote for me. Thank you.
I too would like to thank the AAUW, the Chamber, and I'd like to thank everyone here for sitting through the past hour and a half of us thinking on our feet with these questions. Now, as far as my closing statement, I'd like to say this. I follow a lot of Watertown online, and I talk to a lot of people in the streets and in committees and in other various things, and I hear a lot of frustration. They're frustrated, they feel like they're not heard, they're frustrated by seeing businesses trying to develop and getting shut off. They're frustrated by taxes, they're frustrated by lack of transparency. At a certain time, you need to stop doing the same thing and hoping for different results. That's why I think you need a fresh perspective. I like evidence-based decision-making. I like to say yes if instead of no because. It changes the frame of the argument. We can't do that because of this. I prefer to say we can do that if we do it this way. One of the last things I'm going to close with, I gave the keynote address at my medical school about 3 years ago. They invited me to come back. And the theme of it was that a good doctor talks to their patient, but a wise doctor listens. I'm going to apply that to an alder as well. A good alder talks to their constituent, but a wise alder listens. I'd like to be a wise alder for you. I have flyers in the back. If you like what you heard, please grab one, give it to a friend. If you didn't like what I had to say, please grab one and give it to people you don't like.
I have to say this forum has been very humbling. I love Watertown. I will admit I have a lot to learn. These questions were hard, but I'm known to be a hard worker. I'm great with the team aspect. I just want to move forward. I know people don't like to hear we're at a standstill, but I feel that we are. We are an amazing city. And I just want to bring what's best to my community. Like I said, if you are the type of person that wants things to stay the way they are, then I am not the right alder for you. I will work very hard and I will do my best to get out, speak to people, because I'm representing them. So, like I said, if I do get nominated, I will do the very best I can. And I'm willing to learn, and I just appreciate this opportunity to be here. Thank you for listening. Thank you to you young ladies for hosting this, and the TV station, and then this beautiful library that we're in today. Thank you.
Well, you got to bring it to a close, no pressure.
Thank you all. As everybody else said, thank you for hosting this. I wasn't smart enough to bring my flyers or door hangers, so please go to Ian Pilak for Watertown District 4, and that's my Facebook page, and you can see what I've been posting there over the past couple years. I bring curiosity. I bring, with my customer service background, I bring a way to talk to people and listen to people actively, try to get to the nub of the issue that they're having. I'm always open to learning, because I don't know everything, and I don't have the arrogance to think that I know all the answers. So I will bring a different voice. I come, like I said, I'm new to town, so I'm going to bring a different perspective. I don't have the background of knowing what was. I know what I've seen here since I've been here. Like I said, my roots are growing. I hope to make them grow as deep as everyone here and have that pride too. But I want to help make this the best place it can be.
Okay, thank you very much on behalf of the Watertown branch of the American Association of University Women and the Watertown Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for joining us tonight, and thank you for knowing the importance of being informed. And as a reminder, we will have 2 other forums before the main election. On March 17th, the school board candidates will join us at Madison College, and on March 26th, the Common Council Candidates Forum will be here at the library. Remember, the primary election is Tuesday, February 17th, and to learn more, you can always go to myvote.wi.gov. Your vote matters. Good evening.